Hey, David.
Hi, Michael Joseph. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Doing good. How you doing? You
All right.
doing all right?
I'm doing fine.
All right.
Um, I think we're both staying pretty busy these days,
Yes,
but I
sir.
wanted to get a coffee chat about some of the changes that have happened to the 1040 form and for 2018 here in 2019.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like they've redone the form. And I'd be honest with you, after looking at the new form, it's like a mystery why they redid it. It's almost like it's just taking the same information and putting it on different sheets. They could have put sheet one and sheet two all in one sheet. But
Yeah, I noticed that too. They're both two short sheets and they could have combined them into one page.
right. I know you probably noticed that they've, like line 21 used to be on the front sheet, and now it's on the second sheet. And actually, it's on the front sheet. It's now in line 6, I think it is, and it refers to Schedule 1. And Schedule 1 is basically the old front sheet of the 1040.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you looked at Schedule 1 yet, but it basically is the old front sheet of, the original 1040, like in 2017.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so,
So,
and literally, it's almost line for line exactly the same as the old 1040. And, it even line 21 of Schedule 1 is, line 21 of the old 1040, 2017 1040. So it's like you got to ask yourself why. What was the cause? I mean, who's benefiting from this restructure of information? I mean, same information.
mhm.
Was it a computer thing? Or why? It just doesn't make a lot of sense, at least to me, when think about why somebody would do this.
Well, there's something else that's happened is the instead of the 3176C form, I think that's the number for it. They're putting out a new form. Christine Davis is still signing a new form, the 105C form.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that's changed that I think makes a big legal point is that she's not citing any kind of IRS memorandum or something you can find on there about a list of frivolous penalty arguments and things like that. She's not making any citations. She's just making basically an empty, a non-specific claim that what you're doing it doesn't agree with, and the federal courts have all been shooting this down for many years now, and she doesn't give you any kind of specification for you to make any kind of investigation for yourself of whether or not it's true or not what her claim is.
Right. Basically, this letter, you'd have to just basically accept the legal advice that whoever Christine Davis is giving you, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a slippery slope.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I mean, accepting legal advice from someone who, may be a clerk with a, that's just not somewhere you want to go.
So when keeping an evidence repository or a record and you're writing out a clerk instruction, what we used to do is say, we've investigated the citations you put on your 3176C letter, and we find no way that it applies to the 1040 form or the processes that I'm applying to it. Or something to that effect. We were able to actually use her citation for leverage back against, that what you say doesn't apply. And now we don't have that. So, but I think what we
Well,
do is we
directly.
just challenge. Go ahead.
Well, you don't have it directly, but I'm just pulling up that that file, that form letter you're talking about, and I'm looking at. It says, but there's a statement here. It says your claim is based on frivolous position that isn't supported by law. That's a pretty bold claim right there. I
Yeah,
mean,
and it's not backed by any kind of specifics.
well, I guess the specific, it's indirectly or it's insinuated or implied that we have we have a frivolous argument position, or like I know they have like their frivolous position manual, or I don't know
Uh-huh.
what they call it, but
I think there's 40 points. Yeah.
right. So in those 40 points, that's the only thing that they have in order to rely upon, of whether or not an argument is frivolous. But in other words, if Christine Davis is telling uh, this one who submitted, this claim that that this petitioner's claim is frivolous. The only thing that Christine Davis can rely upon is that frivolous document that their lawyers have prepared for them and made available to the public. I mean, what else could she be relying upon? And if she's
Right.
relying on something that's outside of that document, well, you know, who
Okay.
made her judge, right?
Right. So now instead of directing the taxpayer to it, um, she's just saying that it exists, but she's not even specifying what it is.
Right. They
Um,
used to say that, it's inconsistent with Beard or, or they would cite some kind of,
uh-huh.
case, Ware or Rickman or whatever, or try to use that in a way that was inconsistent with logic. Uh,
Right. So it seems like the IRS attorneys have decided to take that because it's being used in the response or the answer is it was being used by various people that are redeeming lawful money. And it's very effective to say, well, I've investigated it and it doesn't apply to what I'm doing. I mean, not to Title 12, Section 411.
yeah,
So I think
because their frivolous argument booklet, if you will, or how many frivolous arguments they've been able to come up with in that booklet does not in any way, shape, or form address Title 12, Section 411. It just doesn't.
so. Yeah, so now I think that the response in the clerk instruction, say if you have an evidence repository and you're building a record, is you failed to specify what cases or what kind. Your claim is so non-specific it's meaningless.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, let me ask you a question. So someone is issuing a return to the IRS, a 1040 return to the IRS in order to try to get their withholdings back, right? That's the premise of where I'm going. So, um, so the question is, there's a presumption here of whether that one is, bound as a combination party or a trustee or, have some sort of obligation as a function of agency or something like that. Because from the IRS's perspective, why would anybody be issuing a 1040 to us unless we had, management, administration rights to oversee what these, um, um, really, they're trustees is what they are. That's what gives the IRS the authority to make demands upon, because we have the possession of that money, and so they're the ones who are collecting the accounting, because they're saying, okay, we want you to give a yearly account of the use of the property. All right, so from their perspective, it's all in the Federal Reserve central banking scheme, and uh, yeah, you owe, period. But from the perspective of one who's been redeeming, making a demand for lawful money all year outside of the central banking scheme, uh, they're just wanting their withholdings back. So then, what by what authority does why do you give a rat's ass what Christine, pardon my French here, but what Christine Davis, you know, thinks about what's frivolous and what's not frivolous? I mean, right on the face of it, to me, it seems like I would refuse this immediately, because I mean, like, by what authority do you even write me to tell me that I don't have, standing to make this claim? In other words, I mean, they're assuming that you're one of their trustees making a yearly filing into
Mhm.
in other words, they're assuming that you're one of a pool of tenants or trustees that they have authority over to oversee the filings, and therefore their word at the end of the day carries the power of the director of the IRS or the revenue
Okay.
commissioner. And so you're going to do what we say you're going to do. But
Okay. Okay. Then back to my train of thought is um, you're implying that maybe it's just better not to respond to an empty claim at all. All you do is a simple refusal for cause. Don't even
Well,
recognize the claim because you're asking her to explain her claim further by responding at all.
that's right. Why would I give her any standing at the table
Yeah,
at it, whatsoever? Because I don't even
right. Okay.
acknowledge that. I mean, if you claim trust, you have to prove trust. So go ahead and prove first that the relationship is valid. Otherwise, we don't even have a. Why should we even be even in a conversation here, right?
Yeah, your papers are refused, and that's all you do. Okay, that's good. I like that, and um, that it's such a non-specific claim that it's not even being responded to at all.
Yeah, I think that basically that's exactly what this letter is doing. I mean, it starts out, dear taxpayer, we can't allow your claim. Now, isn't that a refusal for cause? It's just saying, hey, you can take we can't allow your claim with just saying we refuse for cause, right?
Right. They're just giving you a refusal for cause on something you have every right to have because it's outside of the scope of what they pretend to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. We can go back briefly to forming the new instructions. I guess we can just go ahead and put that into the video. The new 2019 for 2018 1040 form.
Oh yeah, yeah. With the you're talking about line 6, which incorporates by reference Schedule 1, right?
Yeah, somebody seems to have done a clear job of explaining it on a 50K self-employed example of how to navigate the new form.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so well, I've already sent that over to you.
Okay.
And
Let
if
me
we can just
see.
go ahead and put that up here in this portion of the video to show people the step-by-step instructions on that example. If it makes sense to you, then it makes sense to me. And I think we can also provide the new 2019, um, uh, well, the 2018 1040 forms too.
Okay, I think I'm just looking at that you sent over. Yeah, I see that. So basically, what this fella, one of our students, is using here at the site is he's saying, all right, you can't just like let's just say he made $50,000. In the example here, he's showing quite a bit more, but his total wages were 135,000. In line 7, income, wages, salaries, tips from W-2 is 135, and then he goes through the different credits, refunds, and all that, like his taxable interest and ordinary dividends and taxable refunds. All right. Well, here's the interesting thing: is that let's say I made 135,000 in all of my wages, which is wages in the IRS's code word for income, right? All right.
Uh-huh.
So the, some of that 135,000 was sent out immediately. I didn't have any chance to even touch it. It was sent out immediately to Social Security Administration, right? Some of it to FICA, I think.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure all the different agencies these days, but I mean, what I'm trying to get at is without even touching your paycheck, before you even get your paycheck, it's already been cut up, and your employer has already sent out part of it to governmental agencies, right? Well, there's no
Uh-huh.
way you can make a demand to redeem that income. You didn't touch it. It was, I mean, it was not even part of because you didn't touch it at all, right? How could you make a demand for it when you're not, even touching it, right? So I guess what he's saying is look, here's your total wages. You've got credits and things of that nature. Go through all that and go, and then what you end up with on line 21 is other income, and it says on line 21 on Schedule 1, list type and amount. In other words, what type of other income is this? Well, we have grown accustomed to putting, lawful money, right? Right.
Yeah.
And and then how much is it? Well, it's a negative amount in terms of of the total because it's not included in the in the taxable side of things. It's actually a deduction, right?
Yeah, in parentheses.
Right. So we generally show it in parentheses, and then line 22 is to add up everything from line 7 through 21, and then that is your total income, right? Well, your total income is going to be some number less than your line 7, which is your wages, salaries, right? Because you got some deductions going on in here around line 10, right? And then you'll have your deduction here in line 21, and some of these other like line 12, it contemplates losses as well. You could have deductions in that line as well. I guess what I'm trying to get at is line 22 should be less than line 7, and it should not be the same. So in other words, I think it would be a frivolous argument to come in here and say I made $50,000 this year, and oh by the way, everything is zeroed all the way down the line, and then line 21 is minus $50,000, and line 22 is zero. You see where I'm getting?
Uh-huh. Well, I think what it's coming down to is the claim you should make should be exactly the withholdings on account.
Well, exactly. At the end of the day, after you go through your accounting, to me, I think it's my own perspective. I think it's actually like stealing if you end up with a number greater than your withholdings, because if you're making your
Yeah.
demand for lawful money, then the only thing that makes sense that you'd be entitled to back is for with your withholdings. I mean, why would you go in here and ask for all of these other benefits of, I got this. In other words, to me, it's like having a leg on either side of the fence.
Right.
I mean, do
I
you see
kind of
it
look
that
at it.
way, or no?
Well, yeah, I think another way I've been explaining it is if you don't get into an accident over the year, you don't try and contact your insurance company, automobile insurance, and ask for your premiums back.
Right.
Yeah, because look, I didn't get into an accident. Well, that was there in case you did. So I call this, SSI, old age insurance, okay, or whatever. But you're not going to try and get that money back, and a lot of people do, and then it just kind of shows the IRS agent and attorney that you don't know what you're doing, and also you're making a false claim. So we can take advantage of that and discourage you and make you an example out of you, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, there leaves so many doors open that could, you know, to me, it just seems
Yeah.
logical that I would come in and just ask for my withholdings and to get those back. Because if those withholdings would have come out to me directly in the form of a check, right, then I would have made my demand for lawful money immediately upon the negotiation of that check,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Your
so
withholdings would have just stayed in your pocket.
Right. So if I get them later from the IRS, I mean, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down to the bank and make my demand for lawful money, and I'll just keep my record in case next year I get a some kind of 1099, which sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. I mean, it just depends. Lately I've been finding, and I've been talking to a lot of CPAs lately. One thing that's interesting that's come out of a lot of conversations I've been having with CPAs is that I've come to find out that the IRS has been about the business of hiring third-party debt collectors to help them, do their job.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
I mean, what do you think they're going to go after? The fruit that's like high up in the tree and really hard to get, or the one that's like close to the ground and basically you don't even have to jump to reach, right?
Yeah, well, it's
You know.
very easy. I mean, that's one of the best things as soon as they see a refusal for cause and that it's published on Pacer, they always back off. Debt scavengers, I call them.
That's right. So that's the debt scavengers are, you think they're going to get involved with you if you've got, I mean, I'm not saying that they won't, but I'm just saying it's been my experience
Yeah.
that over, many, many years now that, I mean, we've got the filing cabinet there in the United States District Court, and we keep our own record of any communication with them, and that way we could easily go get a certified copy of these communications such that we can prove that we haven't slept on our position.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. And I suppose even the sloppiest debt scavenger has some kind of contact with an attorney that would explain to him what refusal for cause is, right of refusal, and all that.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, so uh, that saying that off the top, so that they now have debt scavenger. I like that better than debt collector. Scavengers about right.
Well,
Um,
they're getting it for a dime on the dollar, so they don't want to spend any money collecting this money. They just rather come in and arrive in the mailbox there.
Exactly, exactly. So I guess the point of opening that door is to say that I think it would be a false idea to think that there's a level playing field and the amount of education is uniform across every single incident that happens in the IRS. I mean, when you go to the doctor, do you always assume that you're dealing with a Harvard, trained doctor? Or the doctors go to
Oh,
Harvard, but maybe they don't.
yeah.
But you know
They
what
got
I'm
a
trying to
law
say.
school
An
up
Ivy
there.
School trained doctor who, who's top of his class, and no, that's just not how it goes, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that is always the assumption that somebody's cleared this guy.
Yeah, and just because somebody has a job and they're cleared to practice on whatever doesn't necessarily mean they're not also dragging what happened to them last night and all of their baggage and ideas and beliefs to the job. So, you know, I think, because there's a presumption here that we're filing 1040s here, but we're doing it in order to get the withholdings back. We're not doing it as a function of you know this is how we handled Federal Reserve property this year. That's not we didn't touch Federal Reserve property that year. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because we made demands for lawful money. We're dealing with a United States note system, and
Hmm.
that's a different system. That's a
I
different
agree.
trust.
Yeah, that might be something that's good to keep in mind as we're tying the coffee chat here is the perspective that you're speaking to somebody who's thinking that the horizon of their world is the rim of the bowl and there's a bigger world outside of that bowl. But they
That
think that
is it.
they think they understand their complete environment when they can't see over the edge of the bowl and they think the edge of the bowl is their horizon. They don't understand the U.S. note argument.
Okay. All right. Let's come back full circle. Now you understand why this Christine Davis could say we can't support your claim. It's frivolous, supported by law. She can only see the horizon of the bowl. As far as she's concerned, the Earth is flat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. She's only got certain things, items that come within the scope of her purview.
Which, by the way, please don't send me any, comments to the listener. I don't care about this flat Earth business. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. You know what I mean? But I appreciate what you're saying. I just said as far as she's concerned, the Earth is flat. But there's a whole movement on the internet now about flat Earth. You know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I guess sometimes it revives. I think the internet's kind of an amazing place that something that happened in 1992 can be flashed up and flare up like it's yesterday's news.
Oh, I know it. And then it could flash up and become, as they say, viral. And then so many people get twisted around the axle. So anyway, well, sir, we're coming up about 25 minutes, and as they say, the mind and the rear end are connected to each other. But
Okay.
anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think we got several visual aids. You got them right there on your Skype timeline, so you can go ahead and throw those onto the video if you would, and then get it on the YouTube channel, and then we can start teaching some people about the changes that have come up about 2018 filing.
Yeah, be glad to. I'll see if we can't make a nice video with some exhibits to look at while we're discussing here. So, okay, Dave, it's always good talking to you, man.
You too, Michael Joseph.
Okay, have a
Later.
good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.